My name is Annette, and I'm in full recovery from an eating disorder. Tonight, you'll also hear from EDA's founder, Gisele B, who's also in full recovery from her eating disorder. We hope you enjoy the recording, but there were lots of technical difficulties, so we do apologize for the quality of the recording. A few caveats: listening to a recording is not a substitute for attending EDA meetings, finding a sponsor, or working the steps. We do encourage you to actually work the steps with us. The step workshop pages are available on the EDA website on our homepage, www.foreda.org. Please join us. Also, just like you might find in an EDA group, what you're about to hear reflects the experience and opinions of individual EDA members that may or not work for you specifically. Please take what you can use and leave the rest. The only requirement for EDA membership is a desire to recover from an eating disorder. There are no dues or fees for EDA membership. You are one of us if you have a desire to recover. That's all there is to it.
Our agenda tonight is to talk about the foundations of EDA, what makes it the same and different from other 12-step organizations. We're also going to reflect a little bit on the process, talking about how EDA came into existence and why it really is different and needs to be different from some of the other organizations that are out there. We'll also be talking about balance and reflecting on selections from Appendix B. And from there, we're going to go straight into a Q&A session, which will be hosted by people who sponsor in EDA. So with no further ado, we're going to talk briefly about a little bit about the background of EDA. And so back in the year 2000, I'm going to tell you just a little bit of a story, because EDA exists because of one person, and that is Gisele B. Now, there were other versions of EDA, I think, before the year 2000. We've heard of a few of them. However, in the year 2000, when we were thinking and talking about doing this, I had exhausted myself going to other 12-step organizations and was hunting for something different, because it didn't seem like any 12-step group I went to really had a lot of traction with my eating disorder. So I went to a local facilitated therapy group where I ran into a woman who was just as dismayed as I was at the difficulty everyone was having at getting and running forward with something that really felt like solid, good recovery. In fact, that meeting was so depressing, we were laughing about it afterwards. It was really, and so as we were bonding over our miserable experience, Gisele talked a little bit about some of the other challenges she was facing as a single mom, not having insurance, trying to find support. And so she was looking for some help with other things, and we were talking, and I'd gotten recovery through a 12-step organization known as Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I recommended this highly to my new friend. And Gisele, you want to take it from there? Here you go.
Yeah, like she said, we met in this group, and I did go to AA. My first meeting, I was high, so that was fabulous. I hadn't had any recovery yet, so that was my very first experience. But I did start, you know, and AA gave me a good foundation for any kind of recovery. But I also was, I guess, dying from my eating disorder. I couldn't make the Alcoholics Anonymous work for my eating disorder. I tried, but there weren't any concepts or anything in it that would help me. And so I was getting really frustrated, and I saw all these different meetings sprouting off of AA, you know, all the NA, CA, any alphabet I kept seeing and sprout off, but I didn't see any for eating disorder. So I said, well, I can't be the only one in this place suffering. I said, I can't be the only one having this problem. So I went to the board there and just fumbled my way through and started a meeting. And that was that was hard, but I started a meeting there at the fellowship hall that I was going to. And, you know, it started really slow, and Annette didn't want to come. She did not want to come because she had been involved in other groups for other aspects of eating disorders, and those didn't work, and she just didn't want it. And but I kept twisting her arm, and told her to come. And so she finally came, and we laughed about our stuff. We didn't know what in the heck we were doing. I had no idea where to go with it. I had no recovery. I didn't know what to tell these people. So it's just it was support. That was a lot of our thing. It's just a lot of support for each other and what we were going through, and asking questions and seeing what worked, and knowing that abstinence was not it. That was not it, and I knew that, and it was balance. It's the only thing I could figure out that worked, and that was balance in every aspect of my life, and anything I'm going through was balance. And so that's where that came from, and it's just gone along since then. Annette she was astronomically important in the building of the business end of it and getting all that going, and just, she's a rock star. I mean, and just doing all this, she's a rock star. And I couldn't have, it wouldn't have gone anywhere, really, without, I mean, both of us have just really depended on each other. And I'm forever so thankful, and I'm blessed and humbled by the amount of people and support that are involved in EDA. I'm going to go ahead and pass this back. All right, thanks, Gisele. And, you know, this has been in a lot of wonderful ways. So back in the year 2000, I didn't have any recovery from my eating disorder. I'd had it once, and I knew what full recovery felt like. I'd been really clean and out of, I was clean and sober, out of any kind of addiction for 4 years. And then I had like this moment of desperate, horrible, just an emotion that I wasn't prepared to deal with. I didn't handle it well at all. I went back to the food, and I was in the food, and it was like nothing would make it better. I tried every form of therapy, and I went inpatient. I did, spiritual solutions. I really worked hard at that and never found traction. But when I got to EDA, because I didn't want to go, I'd tried other 12-step fellowships for issues with food. And holy cow, 10 years of my life went to try and working it as if I was killing snakes. I got to tell you, I went at it with a vengeance because I knew what I was missing. I knew what full recovery felt like, and I was despairing of ever getting hold of that again. I'd given up completely on taking this approach to recovery, but when Gisele started this group, and I did really try to discourage her, I gotta say, so Gisele is really the founder. But when she got this thing going and she kept pleading, it's like I knew I had to help. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll go. And I went reluctantly, and I was sure it wasn't going to work. You've done this before, right? But Gisele brought to it was a sense of like play. She did. She laughed at stuff. She laughed at herself, and she got me. And she had this license plate. She said, "Lighten up," and I hated that license plate. I just couldn't take it. No, it was really, it embarrassed and shamed me every time I looked at it because I knew that I was just too somber. And so it was really great to just have that kind of regular reminder. And I started to take it seriously because Gisele was getting traction in her recovery. Because we were laughing at ourselves, that brought the adult into the room. Because we both had little kids. We were like, I trusted her love for her kid, and she trusted my love for my kid. We wanted to get better in the worst imaginable way. And I could trust that in Gisele, even though she couldn't trust herself. And she could trust me, even though, I couldn't trust me. So that bond, we didn't have sponsors in this program. We'd had them in other programs. But that bond that was rooted in honesty and in laughter really gave us perspective. It gave us the sense that, no, we weren't alone. Yeah, there maybe was this way, and it wasn't about abstinence. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit, because EDA is different from other 12-step fellowships. In many ways, it's the same. We have the same steps and traditions, basically. We look a little bit different, and we'll talk a lot about that as we go through the steps in this workshop. But what was different is this notion of abstinence we knew was focused on something like negative, what we didn't want. When what we urgently needed in our lives was stuff that we did want, was laughter, was play, was love, was openness, was
honesty. Those were the things we needed to embrace and run towards instead of trying to run away from something that we didn't want. Because every time we fell off the wagon or, you know, like went back to the old behaviors, whatever, it was shaming, and it dragged us back down. It just fed that negative monster. And so focusing on what was going right, on what was positive and good and whole and healthy, that was what seemed to be getting us better. And as we went through this, it just seemed more and more natural and right. And so we wrote about that in the EDA Big Book. Now, I have to tell you that in the beginning, I thought for sure there were other EDA, like Eating Disorders Anonymous groups out there, because it can't have been original. This was the year 2000. Eating disorders had been a thing for, I don't know, a couple of decades by that point. So we did a name search, and we said, look, you know, if we find somebody, we'll just reach out to them and see if they want to join us. And we did a name search, didn't find anything, but we did eventually, like we went and put stuff up on the web so people could find us, and, you know, we had other groups that got started, and with the group in Seattle, actually, that connected with us, they had 6 groups, what they call Eating Disorders Anonymous in Seattle. They had a couple in Michigan, too, that turned up a few years later. And we've recently heard about one in Wisconsin that had started back in the year 1982, or maybe even sooner. We don't know. But the cool thing about that was that everybody that we talked to read our materials, and they agreed with us that the approach we was sound. Now, back in the early days, a lot of our groups actually used the talk, the Alcoholics Anonymous, as a touch point for their recovery. They read the book, and even though anyone tells us we're not supposed to do word substitution, that's what a lot of those early groups did. Now, here in Phoenix, we actually didn't. We tried to do that, but it didn't help us get recovery. What actually seemed to work was really the things that we wrote about in the EDA Big Book, which is about working the steps, but doing them just a little differently. And that's what we're going to be here talking to you about, both and all of the different experiences that many of our sponsors in EDA have leveraged. And so every sponsor is encouraged to use whatever works for them to carry their experience, strength, and hope to others, because that's all we have to share with each other is our faith in full recovery. And you can get there in lots of different ways. We encourage everyone to earnestly seek within themselves to find that spark, to find that peace that comes. And it isn't like I couldn't recognize peace and that idea of a center in the beginning. It felt like there was no center. But when I worked to try to build trust with myself, I found a center. I created a center that maybe was always there, or maybe it hadn't been there, but it was true and authentic, and it was really me. That part has been amazing, and I'm so grateful to this program because I trust that now. And even in the midst of chaos and what we've gone through here with, today and trying to get this set up, I'm happy and I can be full of joy and feel peace at heart because I know that this works. And it doesn't have anything to do with me specifically. It's about love and service and what I can show up and have the joy to participate in today. So I know we're behind schedule. We've got about 5 more minutes, which we're going to spend talking about again, some more interest. But yeah, sure, go ahead.
Annette, this is Nuria. We need to ask everyone to *6 because there's a bunch of static and cats and kids and movement, and a lot of us can't hear.
Okay, yeah, so let me see if I can grab.
There we go. There we go. Someone starts. It's getting better.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, that's infinitely better. Thank you. Yeah, our audio here is like messed up. The whole computer system isn't working like it should be. So thank you so much for muting. *6 to mute if you're on a phone. Alt-A will also mute if you're on a computer. All right. That seems so much better. So we have just a few minutes, and then we're going to turn this over to questions and answers from our panelists. But I wanted to go over kind of a roster of things, which ways in which EDA is the same and which ways we're different. So we have steps and traditions just like any other 12-step group. We have sponsorship, we have meetings, we have fellowship. And, you know, we do celebrate things that our members do go through, but we don't have things like chips. We have, instead, milestones of recovery. What are those? Well, we really think that it's important to recognize and celebrate those things that we think and do that are good and right and supportive of our recovery. That's different from other 12-step fellowships. We don't have chips and we don't count anything. We don't recognize years or days really of abstinence in a formal way. Although, again, many people do recognize and respect those. They're important. We have some new people joining us here in our awkward-looking location. That's great. So welcome, everybody. I just wanted to point out that what we do celebrate is what is human and real, and we can find reasons every day to engage with this idea that, nope, actually we've made lots of great choices. And so that's what milestones are about. We think it's really important for people to claim them every day. It fosters and reinforces recovery. So that's one way in which we're different. Other ways in which we're different are, sometimes you can find those in other 12-step organizations that deal with food too. We don't have any food program at all. We really encourage people to work with professionals if they need professional support. Our program is about building an emotional recovery, a recovery with ourselves. We find that as we focus on dealing with and building trust with ourselves, we develop enough freedom of perspective that other things fall into place. As we work on the major big things, learning to make life choices responsibly, we quiet down with some of the other things that we urgently need. We start to develop peace and perspective with respect to relationships and things like food. So that's one of the cool discoveries of EDA, and a lot of professional organizations actually support that perspective. So we're grateful to have a lot of folks in the treatment and prevention community that are very much in favor of our approach. So with that, we're supposed to be covering the preface, which talks a little bit about the background of EDA. And so when we started EDA, we recognized that an abstinence-first approach was ineffective, because I had been doing that for years, and I knew it didn't work. And I saw that a lot of people that talked about recovery in other 12-step organizations seemed really rigid. And the rigidity reminded me of an eating disorder. I was like, no, I don't want that. So we really moved away from it. Our focus on balance and perspective rather than abstinence distinguishes us from a lot of other things. And we really, really embrace this idea that recovery is a process, not an event. That is the same as every other 12-step organization, but it's different in that we really don't insist on abstinence first. Like you have to get step 0, or you have to get through this, like have to be clean before you can work the steps. That's not true. We get perspective by doing our level best to work them. So it doesn't matter where you're starting. You're never less than you were before. Just keep going forward. Do the next right thing. That's what we're about here. So some medical professionals have been critical of 12-step organizations, and we understand why. Sometimes looking at things and putting labels on ourselves, that doesn't really look very healthy to people. And they think that, this reliance on others, and sometimes that unhealthy forms of dependence. And they're concerned about cult-like dependence on spiritual powers. And, there's a lot of reasons why some medical professionals take issue with 12-step groups. But we think that that's really short-sighted, and we're eager to take on those challenges and to deal with them directly. So if you look at page 14 in the EDA Big Book, we lay out kind of how we address all of those. I'm not going to take time to do that here. But what I want to point out is that our spiritual dependence produces independence from fear, self-pity, despair, forms of obsession, and freedom from mortal peril. I want to point out that an eating disorder is actually one of the most deadly mental illnesses there is. And actually, if you take them collectively, they are the most deadly mental illness that we recognize today. So it is something we need to take seriously, and we do. But the way we get perspective is often through laughter. Not laughter at each other, but just having the sense of perspective that, this is all just a journey, and we're in this journey together. Another thing that EDA does differently is that sponsorship is really just sharing our own experience, strength, and hope with others, that they might find points of commonality. Every person is responsible for themselves. Sponsorship is not like, do this and you'll be better. It's really a thing people understand what they need to do and the perspectives they need to take in order to find their own truth and their own peace. So it's not about advisement so much as it is just sharing. And so nobody's in a one-up or one-down position with respect to anybody else. If you're an adult, you're responsible for yourself. Okay, so I wanted to point out at the end that,
excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead, yes.
There's still a lot of background noise.
There is.
Sandy, excuse me, there's a lot of background noise and it makes me distracted. I'm trying to, I know we're all trying to hear you and that. So it's,
Yeah, it's really bad.
I really appreciate it because there's a lot going on.
I have the host code. If anybody's computer is working, I can give you the host code right now, and then we can mute everybody, and then you can unmute by hitting *6 or Alt-A. So the host code, by the way, is 995. I think that's right. 995. Try 997550. I'm going by memory because I didn't bring the right stuff. I brought the wrong bag. That's part of my problem. But anyway, try host code 997550.
Just to put that in my phone?
Yeah, and then, no, just if somebody's got a computer, they can mute everybody. Like there's a mute all capability if you're the host.
This is Joy. I could do that. I've hosted before, but I'm somehow having a hard time scrolling down to see all 93 participants, so I could mute all and then everybody would have to unmute themselves. Would that be
right? That would be great, Joy. Thank you so much.
Okay, give me a moment to find out claiming the host.
All right, so, and I think it's 979550. Okay. Anyway, Joy's taking care of it. Yeah. No, Joy's taking care of it. Thank you, Joy. All right. So I know we're out of time, and I want to open up the meeting for questions and answers. We were going to talk a little bit about balance, and we're going to touch on that because I don't want us to run late. We have another meeting following on our heels. But it's important for us to think about what balance really means. It means sanity. Okay, folks? You know, whatever that is for you, balance is really about finding peace, perspective, and sanity. So it's essential, I think, for us to glom onto and move forward and toward the light of whatever that is. And I didn't really know in the beginning. At the beginning, balance felt like walking a tightrope. It's like I felt like I was going to fall off. I was terrified. It was a nightmare. But I knew what felt right. It's like when I was reading to my kids, or just, you know, my heart was full of love. That felt right. You know, when I was able to be a person among people, that felt right. So, and I knew some of the things that I could do that made that grow stronger. And so balance is whatever feels to you, like, you know, internally something in you clicks and it's like, yeah, that's it. Just keep figuring out what that is and moving towards that direction, and it'll all be right in the end. Okay, so with that, I'm going to shut up. I've done tons of talking here tonight. Sorry about that. But I would love to kind of introduce some of the folks that are sponsors. So if you're a sponsor, would you be so kind as to introduce yourself on the phone? Give us your first name and where you're from, please.
Hi, this is Leslie, and I'm in New York, and I sponsor.
Thank you, Leslie. Go ahead, anybody.
This is Nuria, recovered from an eating disorder. I'm currently I live in South Carolina, and I'm sponsoring.
Hey, Nuria, great to hear your voice.
Hi, I'm Ellen, and I live in Texas, and I sponsor.
Hi, Ellen.
And hi, my name is Lana, and I'm from Tucson, and I sponsor.
Hi, Lana.
Hi, I'm Emily. I live in Arizona, Phoenix, and I sponsor.
Hi, Emily.
Hi.
So there may be more on the phone, but what I'd like to do now is open the floor. And if you have questions about anything we've covered so far, we've talked about some of the ways in which EDA is the same, some of the ways in which it's different. We're going to cover more over the course of this 16-week series. But if you have a question, this is the time to ask it, and our sponsors and Gisele and I would be happy to try and answer. So please go ahead.
Can you verify the time of the workshop? I think my information might have been wrong.
Sure, the time of the workshop it's 6:15 to 7:15 in Arizona, which is the same as right now in California, and the West Coast is also at the same time as Arizona at this time of year until the fall. At this time of year, also 1 hour later in like the mountain states, generally speaking. So Colorado, for instance, it's 7:15 to 8:15. In the central states like Chicago, it's 8:15 to 9:15. And in the east, it's actually 9:15 to 10:15. When we get to November, we do a fall back, right? So at that point, we're only 2 hours different in Arizona from the East Coast. And then we're not the same anymore as California. So it's still 6:15 to 7:15 in Arizona, but then it becomes 5:15 to 6:15 in California. And it's the same time in mountain states as it is here. So if you go to Colorado, it'll still be 6:15 to 7:15. Chicago would be, then it would be 7:15 to 8:15. And in the East, it would be 8:15 to 9:15. Hope I got that all right. And if you're international, oh my gosh, heaven help you. All right, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Regina in California.
Hi, Regina.
I know you mentioned who can be an EDA sponsor. If you have, can anyone who decides they're a sponsor say they're a sponsor? Is there an initiation process? Or do you have to have worked the steps with an EDA sponsor? What if you work the steps in another 12-step program? Thank you.
So I'll do my best to answer that, and then I'd like to ask Nuria and a few others that sponsor, but we don't have any litmus tests for sponsorship. However, we highly recommend that anyone interested in sponsoring work the steps of EDA, and that means either using the EDA Big Book or have worked with an EDA sponsor in order to get that. And we don't have a litmus test for years of abstinence or anything like that, but we do hope that our sponsors have seen substantial recovery, like significant progress in recovery from their eating disorder. It takes most people a year or 2 years sometimes to get fully out of the behaviors. And we want to encourage people to be patient with themselves. If you've worked the steps and you've got substantive recovery from your eating disorder, sponsoring other people, sharing your experience, strength, and hope, and being honest about where you're at is actually going to help you and the people who are also looking for information about how to get better. So it's not critical that we meet some kind of, it's like we don't have to put people on a pedestal. We don't have to be perfect. Go ahead, Nuria.
Yes, that's the thing is by the time someone's gotten through the steps, they've experienced, some maybe they experience all kinds of recovery, physical and I guess you could say the obsession has been lifted, and some people have seen a slight improvement in one aspect. And I've worked with people that started sponsoring that, okay, maybe one of their manifestations of, one of their mini manifestations had subsided, and they were working on trying to, use food and exercise in balance while they were sponsoring. It doesn't have to be this idea of, oh, you have to be 100% fully recovered in order to sponsor. It's knowing, it's the having had the opportunity to learn the steps and how to use the steps to try to seek that recovery. And I always encourage, I never thought I would be ready to sponsor anybody. And I had to remember, like, I'm not the one that's getting them recovered. It's their process. It's their higher power. I'm just here to show them what I did, my experience, strength, and hope. Because as Annette said, we're responsible for our own recovery, not for other people's. And as it pertains to someone having worked the steps, here we are, Gisele, Annette, and I, we didn't have a sponsor who had worked the EDA steps, when we came here. It's like, okay, we had gone through the big book or whatever way, we're having worked the steps, and then we try to apply this idea of balance with our, in life and applying these steps to the eating disorder. So I know I've worked with a couple of women who had come to EDA, who had felt some relief already, from working the other 12 steps, and they wanted to go ahead and sponsor an EDA. And I was like, well, it's the steps just, and what I did is I recommended, okay, just use the EDA book alongside with whatever else, whatever other material that they use to recover. And that combination has seemed to work for them, and they're still members of EDA, sponsoring using the EDA book and whatever other material they want to use.
I have
Thanks,
a question.
Go ahead.
I'm Laura from Davis, California. The EDA Big Book from Amazon, but it's out of stock currently, and so I'm eagerly awaiting to receive it. But if you haven't finished your steps through OA, do you recommend that you start all over and do all your steps through ED?
What I would say is because the program you mentioned, which I don't think EDA has any sort of like input on that program at all, you know, respect for different programs, but it does have a different approach where the core of EDA is to aim for balance. And in the program you mentioned, there is definitely, I mean, a major focus on abstinence. So for me, no matter which program you're going from, the way I learned from my sponsor, it doesn't even matter if it's the same program and you're switching sponsors, you start from step one. And that's just how I learned, because every sponsor is different. But especially because each step are worked differently and they're going to ask you different questions, whereas OA is primarily focused on the behavior of overeating. While it does welcome other people with different behaviors, EDA kind of encompasses the whole gamut, which for me, in my experience, is my eating disorder. It's everything. I didn't stick to one. It just kind of morphed into whatever it needed to take control. So I definitely, for myself, would recommend starting at step one, because it's admitting powerlessness over your entire eating disorder and not just one aspect of that eating disorder. And it's just a whole different program, and it's got a whole different, like I said, core of balance. So everything is going to be different.
Okay,
so yeah,
good.
That's my input.
Thank you very much.
All right. So I wanted to take one more pass at that question. So they say the EDA Big Book is out of print, and it is being reprinted. We have a different publisher, but they're in the process of reprinting now. I don't know how long it will take to finish the reprint, but I know that order is in. So that's in the works. Generally, I think it takes about a month and a half to get. So that's not great. But if you're looking for the EDA Big Book, there are used and there are expensive copies available online. But the cool thing is that we also have the PDF of the entire book available on the EDA website for free. You can just go to the website and read the book online. It's not as easy as on Kindle, because the page of markings and all that isn't the same. But the Kindle editions are also still available, and the Nook edition is available on Barnes & Noble. So I know there's multiple formats, e-formats available as well. Okay, and then with respect to other programs, yeah, actually EDA steps are a little different, and so we really do encourage people to start using the EDA approach. Not all this, I mean, a lot of the basic intent is the same, but the way we work them is a little different, and it's important. So we'll cover the differences. If you don't yet have a copy of the worksheets, I know I do want to point out that we are going to be doing homework in this workshop. And the very first set of homework is related, it's actually mentioned on the schedule. So the schedule is available on the EDA website on the homepage. And the schedule mentions that we're to work the workshop worksheets, pages 1 and 2, before the next session. Pages 1 and 2 are about an eating disorder log. And so we also want you to read the Big Book Preface section, which is pages 11 through page 18. And the doctor's opinions, which is page 19 through 30.
as well as, it's a long reading assignment, letters of support. And these are actually fun. I mean, we had like people that are kind of names in the industry write in, and I actually love their letters. So they're people that are authors in the field of eating disorders recovery, and I hope you enjoy them. So anyway, the total number of pages that you need to read is less than 50, but it's still quite a lot. So anyway, there's that. And if you have other questions, there's a little bit more time left to that, and we're going to wrap up with a prayer at the end. We need to stop exactly at 7:15. With respect to any other questions, let's hear from the floor. We've got a few people in the room here as well, so welcome to everybody if you've arrived late. And questions?
Hello, this is Rebecca. I need to ask a question. Is there a way to listen to a recording of this meeting?
Yes, although I think it would be very frustrating. We're going to put the cloud version of this recording out there on YouTube, but we're going to try to delete some of the beginning part where it was just like a lot of chaos for 9 minutes. That's going to be chopped off, and we're going to make it accessible. We'll send out a link to the YouTube video, but it's not really edited. So that's the other thing. If people say something like, I know somebody mentioned their phone number, sorry to hear that, but that's going to be out there then as part of the audio. So if that's going to be a problem, I know that we have, you know, people with technology skills who can edit things. Let's hope that they volunteer to support the, you know, splicing things. But in any case, yes, the answer is they will be available for audio. Before we put them on the EDA website, however, they have to go through a vetting process. Just like any other piece of literature or audio, we actually put them through a literature committee. They get reviewed, they get edited, and then they have to go to the General Service Board for a vote before they actually are adopted and put on the website. So the site that we're going to send you a link to is not official. It's not an official thing. So this is just our opinion, even though we may have written or contributed to the book. And I know Nuria's stories in the book, Gisele's stories in the book. You know, so there's lots of great stuff that we're doing here in this meeting and that we're going to do in the workshop. And we'll make sure that it's accessible, though maybe not officially. All right. Quick question. Go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Victoria from Florida, and I just started an EDA group here, and I was just wondering, in terms of sponsors, I haven't completed the steps yet, and I'm not comfortable being a sponsor. So if anyone who joins the group would want a sponsor, how would I go about finding them one?
What an excellent question, and I think it's one that every group faces. So there is a shortage of people available to sponsor this program. There's a huge need for EDA, and not a ton of people that have been sponsoring. I mean, Nuria's got great grant sponsees. I mean, so I can't say that like across the board, but we encourage people to sponsor locally. We think it's very important to have that eye contact and that accountability with people. So it's hard if you don't have local sponsorship. One of the things you can do is, again, if you're attending the workshop and you're finding recovery, because we're going to work together. We're working these steps together, people. This is not just like, you know, we're going to like give you orders. It's like, here, do the homework. We're actually going to spend a little time talking about it, and we're going to work together. So I do encourage you to chat with people and message people that you see in the workshop. Try to find buddies. Again, not everything is safe. If you're underage, find another buddy your age. You know, it makes your, you know, practice safe internet stuff. But the idea is we're going to be in this working and talking about the steps, and I'm going to be working the steps also. I don't just, you know, it's not like we were one and done in this program or really any other. The idea is this is a way of life. It's a way of looking at things and finding mature perspective that helps inform us as we move forward with whatever life hands us. And that has, I've learned to be a lot more open to things than I ever thought was possible. And what's cool is I just had a birthday recently. I'm like seriously old now, and I actually am fine about that. I don't feel like any sense of
of despair or like my life is over, oh, woe is me. I am totally rocking solid, like just thrilled to wake up in the morning and move on and face whatever opportunities I have. And that was not what I was like when I was 20 or even 30. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, let's,
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Question.
Please.
Where in Florida is the person who spoke? Like which part of Florida?
Gainesville. So over at the college at US kind of located. So there was nothing over here. So I just started it.
Okay, well, good for you. Congratulations. That's awesome. Just checking. Great.
Okay. Hi.
Could I say something?
Please, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say we started a meeting in Houston also, if anybody's in Houston out there. It's in, I don't know if anybody's there, but it's at, on Mondays at 6 o'clock in Spring Branch.
Houston, I have a sponsee in Houston. This is Nuria. So if you want to email General Service Board, and they'll forward your information to me, and I can get a hold of you. Okay.
What's your name again?
Nuria.
How do you spell that?
N as in Nancy, U-R-I-A.
Okay. Thanks.
No problem.
So I know we have a few people who sponsored who chimed in, and I'd like to ask if there's any comments that you'd like to share with our audience today about your own recovery and what you're hoping to do here in the context of our workshop.
I already spoke. It's Emily, but if it's cool, I'll speak again real quick.
Sure, Emily, go for it.
Okay, I'm always up for it. I just wanted to say that, like, one thing that I learned to look for in a sponsor is someone who, like, you know, they say, I've heard a lot in the program, you know, somebody who's got a sponsor and whose sponsor has a sponsor, you know, and that's obviously going to be difficult in this program. But I think for me as a sponsor, it means that I need to be continually working the steps for myself and continually working through them because, and like, so I was taken through using both there used to be an EDA workbook and then a big book. And once the EDA Big Book came out, which was, you know, and that's exactly right. It took me about 2 years to stop my behaviors. And that was discouraging when you're going through the big book and everyone's got this burning bush moment. But it totally happened. And you know, I'm still not perfect, but it's a miracle. And anyway, I guess I would say that, like, right now I'm in a step study group with some step buddies, which I actually wonder how Annette would feel or Gisele would feel about that. And we're working through the book exactly as it tells us to. And so kind of like what this workshop is doing, because I want to be able to take people through it as it says, because it deals with a lot of things that are untouched, like shame and you know, a sense of loss of like self and loss of trust in yourself and, you know, just a lot of things that I found weren't addressed in other 12-step ways of working them. So that's all I want to say. I'll pass.
Thank you, Emily. We've got 3 minutes. I'd like to make sure that we have opportunity to work out the technology issues before we meet again, and I promise that will happen. But I want to thank everybody on the phone tonight for their patience. You guys all rock, because hanging in there for that amount of time, man, I don't know if I'd have had the patience myself. So you're all amazing. I'm very thrilled to be here with you. And I'm going to pass this over to Gisele for the last few sentences here.
This is Gisele. I really don't have anything more. I'm not a big speaker. I don't do that. But I'm thrilled you're all here, and yeah, I got nothing. I don't know. We're gonna go through this stuff together, and I guess when Emily was talking, it's be patient with yourself. you know, like Annette said, this is a journey. And, you know, people are talking about 2 years and 1 year, and I don't know when I had full recovery. I just woke up and realized, hey, you're not doing that stuff anymore. Cool. Hey, wow. Hey, look. And that was all it was. It wasn't this thing that I went for. Don't focus on getting full recovery. Focus on just day to day. You know, just focus on the next right thing and trying to find balance. It's a miracle that you're all here, and you know that, and I know that, and I'm just thankful to be here. Thank you, Gisele. And 2 minutes left to go. I think we're going to close with a prayer. We typically, in our meetings here, have been closing with the third step prayer or the alternative commitment. But I'd like to open it up. Actually, Nuria, you want to pick one? Hi, Nuria. Okay, I'm going to open it up.
Hey, sorry, I was muted. I'm sorry. I thought I was unmuted. I'm sorry. How about the we version of the Serenity Prayer?
The we version of the Serenity Prayer. I love it. That's the classic. We started our very first EDA meeting closed with the we version of the Serenity Prayer. I'm getting goosebumps. This is so cool. Oh my gosh. So here we go. Are you ready? Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
You guys all rock. This is a 7th tradition meeting. If you are an EDA member or you think of yourself as an EDA member, we do a 7th tradition. We're self-supporting for own contributions. Please contribute as you can. And because we're mostly all remote, we have a PayPal site. It barely works. You have to like right click to make it work. It's really a pain, but we would certainly appreciate any donations you can make. And we are so looking forward to talking to you next week about step 1. So next week, we're going to talk about how we work the steps of EDA, and we're going to talk about what the steps are like, the doctor's opinions, the fundamental transformation we go through, and we'll prepare to get started on step 1 the following week. So really looking forward to talking with you again. And if you have questions, please write to info@eatingdisordersanonymous.org. We have folks that are gracious enough to volunteer to try and answer things. But again, if we have a lot of questions that are along the same lines, we'll try to answer them right here in this meeting. So looking forward to talking to you again. Have a wonderful evening or whatever time of day it might be where you are. And thanks again for your patience on the call. Bye. Bye.
Can you please explain how to make contributions?
Yeah, you can write.
Please explain how to make contributions?
Yeah. So there are 2 different ways. You can write in and send a contribution to the EDA website, not to the post office box. We have post office box 55876, Phoenix, Arizona 85078. It's on the EDA website. So I'll repeat that again. 55876. And that's Phoenix, Arizona 85078. And so that's one way. The other is to go to, there's a link on the EDA website called support. And under the support tab, there is a PayPal link. And you can click on the PayPal link and then nothing will happen. No, you can click on the PayPal link and you might have to right click on it to get it to open in a new tab for it to work for you. But then you can pay online. But there's no expectation of payment. This is a workshop. I just wanted to bring that home to you, okay? So thank you to all who volunteered to help support this. And we have to wrap because there's another meeting starting right here in 13 minutes. Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Yep. My name is Annette, and I'm in full recovery from an eating disorder. Tonight, you'll also hear from EDA